Hello, friends. Welcome back for part 30? Is this 30? Yes, 30. Of our walkthrough of Oxygen Not Included Spaced Out. I have no idea how many parts there's going to be in this, but it's probably going to be a lot. So, part 30. Yay! Okay, so what's changed since the last one is Lumina Volcano is basically up and running at full power now. This will continue to get hotter and hotter, and the steam turbine will eventually run at full power. Oh, I need to turn this on and start letting oxygen in. I actually just barely answered a question about why I do this, and that's because your steam turbine is going to produce a lot of heat. You will want to overpressurize these little chambers to make sure there's enough material in there, basically. And by material, I'm just vaguely meaning like gas, to exchange the temperature between the turbine and these tiles and the water that's next door. So, yeah, that's why I do that. Good thing I caught that. So, that's going on right now, which means the aluminum is very slowly coming through. As you get it on this asteroid, the first thing I would do is start replacing some of your pipes with aluminum inside here. So I think I was using lead on most of these, but lead is actually a pretty poor conductor, all things considered. If you look at the thermal conductivity of lead, it's at 70. If you look at something like gold, which is okay, it's at like, oh, I swear there was one with gold around here. Oh, here we go. 120, so like better than lead, obviously. But aluminum is way higher, 410. So if you want to run something that's supposed to do a lot of temperature exchange, especially once you get your aluminum volcano up, I would go back and replace a whole bunch of your radiant pipes with aluminum, because it's going to make such a big difference in terms of how cold you can keep this water and how well you can cool the rest of the things around your base. So definitely want to mention that. That's something I'm going to be focusing on as more aluminum comes through off this volcano. And our plan on this asteroid in general is just to continue to capture volcanoes. So I had to capture this one. Well, I didn't have to, but if I'm going to capture all of them, I guess I had to. Grab this one. It's the gold volcano. And the problem, though, is I am basically out of salt water. So I am forced to use some clean water here because this is already erupting. And I don't want 180-degree gold sitting out here. I'd rather cool it and have it ready to go into my base. Which, did I even connect this? No, I didn't. What am I doing? So, I'd really rather not have 180-degree gold sitting there. So, I was kinda forced to start putting the regular water in here because we are out of salt water. So here's our sad tank of salt water. It has nothing left in it. But we do have this geyser that is saltwater based, but the reason that I haven't taken this and that I basically almost always advise not to take it is because it comes out so hot. Like, you look at this salt water and you're thinking like, oh, I don't know, it's salt water, it can't be that bad. And we were just using salt water here, but 95C is ridiculously hot to the point that if you just start pumping it around, not really knowing what you're doing, that could be a base ender sometimes. So, because we need more salt water on this asteroid, and I'd much rather use salt water, and also because we need a consistent source of water for our blossoms here, which I know you could just plant mealwood instead and rely on dirt, but dirt's also going to run out, and water is renewable, even if it is ridiculously hot. We're going to need to capture this in some way and tame it so that we're actually getting cool water out of it and not this super hot salt water. There's a couple ways to do this. I'm going to demonstrate both of them, actually. I'm going to demonstrate one in this video and one in the next one. This one I'm going to be talking about doing it with an aqua tuner, but specifically only one. If you do the math on these aqua tuners, they reduce the amount of temperature in anything that passes through them by 14 degrees Celsius. But this is at 95, so there's a rule to never do math on live TV. I'm pretty sure that's like 5 or 6 aqua tuners that you'd have to get it down to a reasonable point, and that's just not something that we should be doing. We really can't push it based upon all the power capacity that we have here. We have these coal generators, which are really helping us push this a lot, but my coal has been slowly dwindling. Even though it's as much as we brought here, there's still a bunch of coal around the map. So I can't just put like 4 or 5 aqua tuners just to tame this one thing. So we're going to have to tame it a couple of different ways. And because I'm in this situation, I'm going to tame it first with an aqua tuner and just one. And secondly, we're going to get down into this biome and start grabbing some ice. So we'll do the aqua tuner build first, and then the ice one will kind of just be added onto the side, I think. So yeah, that's a lot of introduction. Let me get this fixed up and sealed off really quickly. Just get this last little pocket of air out of here so that we can get this gold flowing. Need to get this all mined out so the gold can actually get out of there too. I guess I don't need this wall anymore. There we go. Cool. Now I can seal this off entirely. We also shouldn't need any more water, so I can go ahead and just kind of clip that off, which, there we go. Alright, let's go ahead and take this. So, first of all, this is very hot, so I don't want my duplicates to be coming in contact with it. So we'll kind of build everything that we need around it really quickly. The idea here is we're just going to create a chamber that is around this just to hold all the hot salt water. You can make it kind of large just because this might not put it out at a rate that we really are, like, happy with, I guess. Probably make it a little bit smaller than that. That's pretty big. So we're probably going to get backed up with salt water a little bit. And also, if you're ever working with one of these geysers, you don't want to have any of it going to waste. Like, basically, it's going to waste right now because this is entirely full. And there's not any more that can come out because it's, like, too pressurized. It looks like it's erupting, but there's really nothing coming out right now, as evidenced by the saltwater levels not changing at all. So I'm kind of considering this to be wasted at this point. So I want to have a big enough chamber to at least hold quite a bit of it, so that if we're not cooling it at like a, you know, breakneck speed, then I still want to hoard all the extra salt water if I can. So we'll do that. Is that big enough? Some other things. Is this actually lining up with the floor? Yes, okay. So, cool. Once we have this big pool of water here, I'm just going to build a couple things. Let me get this up here. Just going to build a way to get around here just so that I can at least make sure this is all sealed off before we open this up. Opening this up is going to be one of the last things we do, but I want to build all the other stuff first. So next door to this, I'm going to build a space for an aqua tuner, which we've done many times by now. It doesn't need to be huge, so I guess I'll just do something like this. Kind of keep some space in there. And then right below that, you're going to need your steam room like you typically would with an aqua tuner. So maybe something like this. I'm going to dig all this stuff out. Actually, what we should be doing is building this out of ladders so all the debris falls. We don't need to move it. There we go. And while I'm on it, I guess I might as well get rid of this bottom layer too, so that all the stuff falls out, and then we'll replace it back with tiles. Much easier to do that than to move stuff around, so gonna do that. Over on this side, we're gonna do our typical steam turbine aqua tuner combo here. I will go ahead and get that up off screen really quickly, just because there's no reason to watch. Like, we literally just did this several times with this. Same type of concept here, except for there's no aqua tuner, just a heating element, basically. So, yeah, let me get this up really quick so we can skip forward and we don't have to sit here through all the boring stuff we've already seen. Okay, boring part done. Let's do the fun part now. So, now we just need to close this off and get the rest of this stuff built and kind of explain how this one aqua tuner is going to deal with liquid that is so hot that nails here would definitely be melted if they tried to go in here and mess around with it. So, not get melted, but you know what I mean. So yeah, what I'm going to want to do is a very simple loop of plumbing and logic here to keep this aqua tuner running as consistently as possible, but not break the bank when it comes to power budget, because we still have a lot of expensive stuff going on here to keep all the volcanoes cool and just to cool this initially. This will start kicking in and giving us some power, but we don't have a lot to go around, so I don't want to go nuts with like 3 or 4 aqua tuners. I'm just going to do it with one. But the way that we're going to do the plumbing with this is going to be pretty particular to make sure that we're sending out the water that has been cooled properly and that we're recirculating the water that needs to be cooled back down again without wasting power if we can. So, what we need to do is we need to come to the assumption that whatever we pump into this is going to be hot water. So I'm just going to assume that whatever comes from here is going to be too hot for us to cycle into our base. The only reason that's going to work, and we might redo some of this in just a second, the only reason that's going to work is because we're going to evaluate what the temperature is of the water coming out of the aqua tuner. And if it's a certain temperature coming out of the aqua tuner, I want to take it with this liquid shutoff and send it somewhere else to be stored or converted into regular water or whatever. If it's not, I'm going to let it pass, and it's going to go back through and go through a loop. The bridges here are going to be very important to get this to work. So I want to send it through one bridge just to force the direction, because I'm going to put a second bridge here, right there, that is going to get confused if I don't force a direction here. So as long as I force a direction, what's going to happen is the water is going to come in that's really hot from here. It's going to go through the aqua tuner. It'll come up here. It should get evaluated by a liquid pipe thermosensor. We're going to connect that to the shutoff, like this. If it's cool enough for us, it's just going to come down on this line. It'll be regular pipes by this point, because I don't really need it to be anything else. I guess we can store it maybe over here somewhere, just because I did put this up earlier to convert any of our found water on the map to just regular water. So we'll store it in a couple tanks here. If it is cool enough to be stored in those tanks, then I'll just kind of run it down and go like that. If it's not cool enough, it's going to go back around and be reevaluated, and it's just going to continue to go on this loop. But the priority is going to be things that are coming out of the aqua tuner to be basically go right back in. So there'll be a small loop here, and when this is active and stealing water away, it'll just get refilled by the hot water that's coming in through here. So yeah, kind of particular plumbing, but it's the cheapest way to do this, and only run this with one aqua tuner and assure that you're going to get a good result. While my duplicants set that up, let's start to fill this up with water like we typically would. We can close this off because this is already good to go. Oh, by the way, I am running a line of cooling up here from one of my tanks, so it just kind of comes out of the corner of our kind of cooling setup here, and just on a continuous loop to send some cold water up here to keep that cool. Duplicates are going to get wet when they're working in here, but you know what? They signed up for this. That's the contract that they signed when they offered themselves to be available in the printing pod. All right. Now all we need is just to make sure this is hooked up to power, so do that. We're going to need a pump for the room that's going to be filled with salt water, so I'm just going to put it, I guess, right there. I guess it doesn't really matter. We need to make sure to build it out of something that can resist that temperature, though. So I'm going to build it out of gold amalgam. Otherwise, if I'm building it out to, like, copper or iron or something, it's going to get broken, and my duplicates are going to have to come in here and fix it, which I really don't want to have them do. So here we go. I also want to make sure that the water in here is worth pumping out. So if we're basically out of water, I don't want to have this pump sending really tiny packets of water through. So there we go. Yeah, something pretty simple like that. Just going to check this water level. I guess we could probably close this off and start vacuuming it out. Turn off our water from here. And the rest of this, I guess we can just disconnect and deconstruct. Should be the name of a band. Disconnect and deconstruct. And the levels that I want here is I want to make sure we have at least, like, I don't know, 150 kilograms. Sure. Gonna go ahead and put the floor on here so we're not spilling hot water all over the place. And we need power. And once we get that, that should be it. I guess we probably shouldn't close this off yet to make sure. Yeah. Let's just not close this off until it's ready to be all hooked up. And I will run this within the span of this video so you can kind of see this plumbing loop in action. So we don't need to wait any longer. And once we have all this stuff vacuumed out, we should be good. So, yeah, let's get... Ari, are you helping or are you just, like, on break over here? What are you doing? Get that all closed off now that we have all the wiring inside there done. Turn on our pump to pump out all the gas. Okay, now let's open this up. Let's get everybody out of here first, so move everyone. Actually, I'll just give them some dumb tasks to do. Here, yeah, mine this out. That's really important. There you go. Alright, good job. Now, I just need to deconstruct these tiles and run away. So, who is going to be the poor unfortunate soul to do this? Hey, Nicola. You're pretty unfortunate. Oh, Nails too. Hey, we just talked about Nails getting melted. Alright, Nails, run away! Hey, what are you doing? Just standing there. Alright, now we're just going to go ahead and close this off with a tile as the game lags and makes me miss. That was not my fault at all. Okay, here's our setup. So, water's going to be coming in. We know it's going to be super hot. When it comes into here, it's going to get ran through the aqua tuner, cooled down, so it's coming out at 76, going in at about 91, which checks out. So I do my napkin math here. If it is anywhere below, might be bad, I forgot to set this. If it's anywhere below, like, I don't know, 23 Celsius, then we'll let it come down this line, and I will store it in these tanks, and it'll kind of go on its way to help us out in other parts of the base. Looks like one packet got through that I didn't really mean to because it wasn't set up in time. So these are too hot. This is going to say, oh, no, this is too hot. I'm not going to turn this on. You can keep going. And while this keeps going, you'll notice that our water from here is blocked. It's not going to let it keep going through. And this loop will just continue to resolve itself until this starts to actually steal packets. Once this starts to steal packets, it will basically leave this line open enough for this to start running again. But this loop will always be going, which will effectively keep our aqua tuner running the entire time. So, pretty straightforward, I guess, kind of a way to do this. But this is also, like, the cheap way to do it in the sense of I don't have infinity power. And if I want to do this, and if I also don't desperately need all of this water right away, this is still a reasonable rate, I would say. I guess you could probably measure it, but just looking at the tanks that are coming out here, or rather the packets that are coming out here, it's decent. I mean, eventually we won't have as much of a need for all of these blossoms because there will eventually only be one duplicant living here. So they're not going to need a ton of water to keep this running. And as far as oxygen needs and stuff like that, Oxalite will take care of that one duplicant as well, so we don't need to worry about that. But I've never talked about this before, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about a way to deal with this geyser. Because these geysers are very common, and I think a lot of people have like water problems, so they try to take one of these geysers and just overheats their base and they don't know what to do. So if you're in that situation where you need water and you've only got something like this, or like a regular water geyser, which also comes out at 95C, here's one way you could do it. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. I'm going to talk about a second way to do that because I want all of this salt water as soon as possible, considering it is kind of a blocker for us taking more volcanoes since I don't want to waste regular water here. I'd much rather use salt water, so I'm going to start taking this volcano, but we're going to use the salt water that we're getting off of this in order to fill up the little cooling chamber for it. But if we want to increase our saltwater output, we're going to start getting down into this biome and start mining it out, using some of the ice and cold stuff that's in here to help cool this on the other side also. So we're just going to set up something really simple like that. We've done something like this before, so I'm not going to belabor it too much, but just to give you an idea of how to deal with something like this, again, because I've never really talked about it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. Let me know if you have any other questions about this, and I'll see you in the next one here really soon. Bye.